A couple of things to cover before we get started. I found this physical with that DLC for 30 quid, so base game and DLC. That expansion only came out last year, 19th of December. The base game has gone through some changes as well. They've added a third person mode and sort of tweaked up some of the glitchy behavior we saw on launch, which was 2023, can you believe? I'm going to feature that From the Ashes DLC in a separate video. This is all about that standalone base game. My name is, of course, CouchCoop, and welcome to my Avatar Frontiers of Pandora review. Talk about a flexi opening, holy shit. We are in quality mode. Wanted to run that check as quickly as I could. I will run any game in quality mode as long as I can on the PlayStation 5. If things start falling over, screen tearing, frame dropping, I will move it to performance. Did not do it a single time in this entire video. The other thing I wanted to cover before we go forward with the review is my relationship with Jim Cameron and of course Ubisoft. This is a quick look at that third person view, which I didn't go to as much as I imagined, but it was awesome having it there. Let's cover the Jim thing first, because Terminator 1 and Aliens and The Abyss to a certain extent, some of my favourite films of all time. Titanic's great, but I feel it's more of a mainstream flex, and it certainly managed that with being, I think, one of the highest grossing box office hits of all time. Then Mr. Cameron went over to his Avatar project. Avatar 1 came out in 2009. Pretty sure I went to the cinema to see it. It was great. It was a Pocahontas retelling, essentially, and it's kind of Jim's own thing. No external studio pressure, no investors breathing down his neck. It was complete creative freedom, and it was not a terrible film. It broke a lot of molds with how production and CGI are used within cinema. And of course we saw the return of Sigourney Weaver in one of his projects, which is always a bonus. Then we had The Way of the Water come out, and by the way, you cannot go third person underwater. I did test that. I thought that would be quite cool, but we don't have it, unfortunately. It is everywhere else though. I suppose what I'm trying to say here is that the Avatar film or series hasn't had the impact on me that some of his earlier projects did, brackets Piranhas 2. And I feel that's important for this video. I am not a super fan of the series, but I did enjoy the 2009 film, and that is what this game very heavily references with all of its furniture and assets and creatures and look. In actual fact, I put the original film on the other day, and it's not just similar, they are identical. They have lifted it straight out of the films. They may have even had access to some of the digital assets. It's pretty incredible.
Don't worry. Near the shore. They grow by water.
And then it lets you access the overhead map, which has got that traditional cloud covering some of the areas you haven't been in. When you zoom out on the L2, you then have a gasp, because you realise how colossal this base game map actually is. Back to my Ubisoft thing, because it was Jim and Ubisoft we're supposed to be covering there. Ubisoft is one of my older favourite developers, full stop. Some of you will be the same on this. 2018 came along, things took a massive dip, and of course nowadays, like 2026, they are in quite a lot of trouble. There's layoffs literally just been announced this week. That photo mode. That photo mode can be accessed anytime. You just pause menu, go over to the system. So it's not on a face button, unfortunately, but that's a rabbit hole. It will come up later. Talking of modern Ubisoft, this is from the people that put together Outlaws. And if you know my content, I didn't think that game was horrendous either. They tried on a single player front. They failed in loads of places, but some of that game looks absolutely tremendous. And hardcore Star Wars fans would have reveled in it. The game sort of makes you immediately stumble into a herbivore's territorial space, causing a bit of an altercation. I wanted to recreate dodging in and out of a tree root. We nearly got there, and things aren't completely unjanky with these interactions, but it was still a hell of a thing to see this early in the game. back to that Jim Cameron stuff and the Ubisoft points, I want it to be clear that I'm going through two gates with this review. Not a huge Avatar fan, and also well aware of Ubisoft's dubious behaviour this last decade. Talking to Jimmy Cameron, he's a very good freehand artist, and you can see some similarities mechanically with a lot of the gear in Avatar, and I think Aliens, particularly with that machinery, the flyers, and some of those mech suits. That one goes a very long way when it comes to sci-fi, because Aliens has got some of the most iconic designs of any Hollywood film, full stop. Just soaking up some of the indigenous wildlife here. It is quite populated, not as densely as I'd like it. On that 2009 film, it opens up with a herd of these things. They're a bit sparse in Frontiers. I would have liked to have seen a Monster Hunter Wild style herd come through. And here's some close quarters combat, nice and smooth, nice and familiar feeling, weak spot highlighted, etc. That brings me on to its quite unique gathering system, meaning that clean shots and quick kills gives you a better grade of loot time. I enjoyed this. It makes you place your shots well and take your time. Here's Rajinder.
You must be Raj.
It's Rajinder.
Oh, I'm sorry. Alma said.
I know Alma. Alma calls me Raj.
He seems nice and approachable. Let's talk about how the inventory slots work, because it is quite simplified. You do have prefabricated chest pieces, arm guards, and then later on head and feet. But you can rank these up, you can craft new stuff, and that all leans on the aforementioned scavenging mechanic, because if you've got superior items, then you can make something a little bit better. I feel I should formally apologise at this stage, because there is going to be a lot of this. What I'm talking about is just standing around and gawping at some of these superior open world effects. I find this game to be ridiculously good looking in areas. I do briefly want to talk about the cooking mechanic, which was again a surprise, a Monster Hunter analogy with it. Loads of different perks and dishes, recipes, stuff to discover, and again it all falls back on that harvesting mechanic, which gets even more detailed when it comes to picking fruit, can you believe? And you can't skip this scene. You need to be making 4 or 5 dishes at a time. It's a very important mechanic for the game. Can we patch that in, please, Ubi? And here comes a brief bit of combat. Now, the tension was up here. If this didn't work, we were done for. It feels a bit like Far Cry with that first person, not gonna lie. And I didn't feel the need to go to third person. That would have been the first thing that I thought would make me make that switch. But it's actually looking for things is a bit easier when you've got that external camera. By the way, we are still in the prologue. This review turned out to be massive. Never have I had so much footage to wade through. The nighttime, the neons, holy crap. You gonna talk? You gonna talk at all? Jesus Christ, speechless. What can you say about a scene like that in a video game? Let's cover some of the other meta they've slung in. There is a bit of a hacking mechanic going on. Ridiculously simple when you first come across it, but it does turn into quite an interesting mini-game with electric shocks that reset you back to the beginning and having to sort of work out different routes, switches, all that jazz. We love it. We also love early shotguns. Go back to that refueling center after getting the hacking gun and you'll get given a pump action. What was the first thing I did with it? Kill wildlife and get told off. So using the Sky People weapons on the indigenous life not only ruins the carve, but also can potentially get you in trouble, but you don't have to just be using the human weaponry. You can go around and really get a bad rep, so not advised. And we are only just up to the end of the prologue. There's two things I wanted to show you, the viewer, in this video. A, the flyer, and B, a different biome within that larger map. We get both accomplished. There is also a very important option or topic I want to talk about that the game offers you right at the start of your campaign. And it's a bit like Assassin's Creed, where it says you can have exploration mode, or sort of simplified, go here, do that, very laid out mode. On the Assassin's Creed games, obviously, it's a no-brainer to go for that exploration. You don't want all of that HUD markers everywhere and compass pointers. It's nice to have a flush screen and really get immersed. So I went with that option with this game, which did actually turn out to backfire spectacularly on me, but I didn't want to go into the options and switch it over because I got in this routine of proactively looking for mission markers and NPCs, but they are really embedded in the game. We'll talk about it in a bit more detail after this combat because we've got some new weapons up here. We've got a mine laying piece of apparatus which is pretty satisfying, and of course the grenades are a go.
Wish they'd assign us something more exciting.
Exciting? You mean catch an arrow the size of a small tree exciting? Trust me, you don't.
Yeah, that shotgun is OP. Everything's OP. You're OP. That's the whole idea with the Na'vi smashing through the humans. They literally take one bullet, and the mechs don't really give you any pushback at this point in the game. That does change, however, and I suppose we should talk about that entry rank system that you also see some of the modern AC games. Essentially, you're building up equipment and gear to get to a rank, which is what they recommend to take on a base or a mission. So it is all about that crafting, that gathering, that doing side quests, getting a cool gun as a reward, because it all points to heightening that number or ranking you up ready for the next stage in that campaign. And that campaign does flood a ridiculous amount of side quests to you 3 or 4 hours in. Once you get that big tree open, and the resistance, they are almost constant on fresh NPCs having new things for you to do. There's a token currency system which is quite good to be able to change out cosmetically what you've got going, or even buy a cool new string for your bow, that sort of stuff. There are no real pointers to online accelerators or microtransactions at this point in the game, which I'm amazed at and really pleased with. It does also have a co-op online option, which I'll be keen to hear back from you guys if that's an enjoyable experience. Here's a brief look at that strange harvesting minigame, which revolves around squeezing the trigger slightly and moving the analog stick to a point where there's no resistance. It's pretty crazy, and it also does this on a lot of the electrical puzzles. I'm also keen to hear back if you're not playing this on a haptic controller, because it seems to be leaning on these really subtle squeezes on the triggers. Some third-person combat here. Just wanted to show you that it is a thing, does totally work. Nice over the shoulder. The distance between you and your character is perfect. No complaints with it. Just running for my damn life here from a giant hammerhead shark on 4 legs. And that was one of the moments you heard me mention at the start about running through the roots. Just getting through the undergrowth whilst being chased or whilst in combat really does feel quite good. The plants do feed back a bit, and the bullets can affect their positioning, and you also see dissipation when some of the larger creatures charge through the undergrowth. Power-ups also need to get a mention because they are incrementally placed in the map. So it's all about, again, exploration, finding those purple dots. They're normally in caves, and you get massive abilities from coming across these. They are extremely important along with the food mechanic. And if you're a regular to the channel, you will know about my indoor to outdoor exposure fetish. Oh my god, this is top level. by now, and because they keep teasing it, I'm thinking I really want that flyer. If you've played Ark Survival Evolved, you know how cool those things could potentially be, particularly with a map like this, and my brain is also whirring at the idea of it all running okay, particularly on quality mode, if I'm diving in and out of all of these huge trees, flying islands. It is coming, I can promise, but they do elongate the process, and there is quite a lot of game in front of opening up that section. What about the story, Coop? What about all these characters and the sort of new take on the timeline with the film? If you know my content, you know I don't really attach myself to too much of a game's story. I'm far more interested, particularly with something like this, on its performance, world size, game mechanics, on combat, that sort of stuff. They don't all massively annoy me, thank God. All the dialogue can be skipped through. The only thing that drives me crazy is the name pronunciations. Everyone has to put this heavy accent on Sokolek because it's Solek, but everything's got to be like exotic with the name pronunciation. Fine, you know, writer's room, they've got to have some fun, haven't they? Check out this third person. This is beautiful. And that ties in with the whole flyer request and this map, because they are just massive waterfalls, huge cavernous gaps that you can't get through. You quite literally start in a high-sided bowl that you're not ever going to get out of until you progress in that campaign. Fall damage is a massive thing, so having to navigate this quite dangerous landscape without a flyer is quite a taxing one. But you know what's coming, and I think they purposely make it awkward to get around to add to the ease of life of having a giant lizard with wings. Classic Ubi moment coming up here. I was just in awe of this. I was like, oh wow, look at that. But yeah, not as graceful on its exit. It is worth discussing the Skywalker, Sky Strider, Sky People's bases. You'll notice that everything is drained of colour in and around the installations. It's awesome. It's like an Akami thing. When you take them over, it all refreshes. And if you go back to an old location, this one blew my mind, they will have vines and leaves and flowers all over the machinery. It's bloody amazing. And of course, a la Far Cry, you can go stealth, peel away, or go right in there all guns. Obviously, I'm the latter. At this stage, I am also trying very hard to hate the game and failing miserably. I'm actually having an awesome open world Ubisoft experience. Can you believe it? I don't say that often. I was thinking about film IP's 9th generation. I do put this up there with RoboCop, Starship Troopers, and the delectable Aliens Fireteam Elite. This is definitely one of the better film IPs currently on the market. And remember, we haven't even come up to that new DLC. Talking of hate in the game, now there are sections that I do want to cover, and it harks back to that exploration option at the beginning. Some of the mission descriptions are really vague, and AC Shadows did this. That just says go to the northwest of the lake that you haven't discovered yet, and you will be marching around a section of map looking for a little thing. I had to find this damn bee honey stuff under a root. Turns out you need to get rid of all of the installations in the area in order for that wildlife to replenish them to appear in the first place. It was a cold ass trick. If I'd had mission marker mode on, I would have found that out sooner, so there was some time wasted.
Got it.
On the subject of colossal wastes of time, where is this flyer footage, Coop? You have kept us up to the 18-minute mark, edit pending. We are close, guys, and thank you for sticking with me this long in one of my videos.
Stop! Do not get too close. You are not bonded.
Just briefly, and to blue ball you, I do want to talk about the human weaponry. You saw that shotgun earlier, and then you get a precision rifle. Pretty sure there's more variants, but you can actually switch out the drum magazines and put muzzles on them. They're not just one-trick ponies when it comes to bolting things on, which I was uber impressed with. I think there's probably some skins to come in later game as well. here is a teaser into the Crocodile Dundee like hypnotize, approach the creature slowly and then get to take it over or get it to work for you, or in tangent with you rather. You pull out these strange needle type contraptions which I'm sure contributes to something somewhere.
There you go. A chimera nest? Oh, the queen. Not home tree. She's content. She's trying to show me something.
And as promised, here is the flying scene. I'm only joking. Goes full Black Myth Wukong and has you control a moth. And I did want to mention, I am quite impressed with a lot of the mini storylines we see in this video game that remain in the Avatar canon. There's quite a lot of new material here. Why is this flyer introduction so important to me and how I present it to you as an audience? There's a couple of reasons. The game has put me right through the ringer in order to get to this. I am simply bursting at the seams to see this world on the back of something that's got height and travels quickly, say goodbye to all these waterfalls and difficult traversal. And I think it knows full well what it's doing with this section and how much time you've invested into the game up to this point. The music plucks up, you have to ascend to a certain point in the map, your hairs on the back of your neck literally start moving around because you know what's coming. My hairs did anyway, and that ties me in to where we are with video games in general, and of course my age, my generation, who can distinctly remember games being a few pixels. I genuinely did not think I was going to be around long enough to see this in fruition. I probably said in 2009, video games will look like this one day, but I didn't believe I would get to see it in the flesh and get to show it to an audience. It turned out to be a friggin' really emotional moment for me. It was unreal. And of course, Ubi on their arse and everything just being in turmoil with the industry. It was one of my more crazier gaming moments of all time. Just looking at that now brings it all back. I think I'm getting a little bit old and maybe a bit mentally impaired. Does the game completely fall apart once you get on this thing? Is it all out the window? Are we going over to performance mode? Is everything I've built this piece of software up to be just going to fall down into pieces? Hell no!
Yes! We did it, girl! You did it! Thank you. Thank you.
There's nothing like that friggin' Ubisoft Connect prompt notification coming up in the corner there to keep you in the old immersion, is there? Damn things piss me off. Yeah, but the combat's not going to work, Coop, is it? As if you can fire from it, or do barrel rolls, or even just swoop into a base, pick off a few explosive barrels and come flying back in for another run. There's no way you can do that.
Okay, Fury. Eyes open.
Obviously, it's named Fury after the film. There are locked names, unfortunately, and a few skins to choose from early doors. The whole frickin' setup works. I have not noticed one piece of screen tear in this entire footage. Tell me if you have. This level of graphical fidelity on the landscape, and also having dismount mechanic being basically flawless. You also have sort of dive speed up methods to try and increase your velocity, and of course you've got the standard boost, and the barrel roll stuff is unlocked. There's quite a lot to unlock on the creature flying front. There is also a hell of a lot to look at in that photo mode. My god, it did officially take me down. There are also quite a lot of airborne activities and ordnance that is well prepared for you to come rocking up. I thought that was very cool, having some clan reputation meters attached to getting rid of these huge platforms that are drifting all around Pandora. They have a hack switch on them and then they blow up spectacularly, but they're normally protected by a couple of scorpions. Whole thing's amazing.
Okay, Fury. Eyes open. Got another one.
Then, just when my boomer brain could not take any more dopamine through both my eyeballs, you are introduced to the upper planes interior-exterior saturation. You then also get the ability for the horse mount, which I was very surprised at the order they showed you those mechanics in. I thought it would have been the land-based horse first, but think about that original biome. It's just rife with plants and trees and obstacles. This is all about that open plain, absolutely gorgeous. On that subject of the starter biome being quite busy, you do see some flicker and pop in when you're going full pelt on the horse. It's understandable a little bit, it's not game breaking or massively noticeable. It wasn't enough, however, for me to make that change over to performance mode, and I'm not sure if that reduces anything like that. I certainly didn't see a single frame drop or screen tear. You can instigate all your standard controls, including firing all your weapons, and you can even gather from this thing and of course scan. So it's identical to the Fly on that setup. There's just something almost Breath of the Wild of having a ground-based mount in a game like this as well. It feels semi-comforting in a way, and it really handles it well, and the fact that they put it in after the Fly gives it that added emphasis. This new section is also full of new indigenous life and plants and even lore surrounding those friendlier giant creatures, which I've never seen before and look absolutely spectacular. I still keep having to tell myself this is base game. And if there's another section to this map, so 3 separate habitats, I need to stop using that word biome because they are all split up into their own labelled biomes on the overhead map, I would still be happy. And remember, I've still got the DLC. Does the horse kick you off in combat? Is it like the strafing that you can do in the Flyer? It's a little bit less spongier and it will buck you off when things kick off. You might be thinking, where's that Thanator? Or the Geiger Panther, as I call it. Well, that MF is too quick for the old capture button. So I've got that bridge to cross at some point and I'm looking forward to it. What is my verdict on this game? This is one of the best 8 out of 10s I've ever played. And it did get some nods at the awards, I remember, in 2023. Not major ones, but it was acknowledged. It's a very strong film IP for that 2009 feature. And I am certainly looking forward to showing you guys more of that DLC. My name was, of course, Couch Coop, and I look forward to seeing you down there. I can't believe I kept this video to under half an hour. What was that?